I fired my own sister from taking care of our dying mother, and I did it by text while she was sitting in the next room. And yeah, I know exactly how that sounds. Okay, so, background. My mom, her name is Diane, was diagnosed with late stage lung disease about 14 months ago. She's not on hospice yet, but we're close. She lives in the house she's owned for 30 years, out in a suburb about 40 minutes from me. I'm the oldest. My sister Renata is 4 years younger, and she lives 10 minutes from mom, always has. When the diagnosis came down, Renata volunteered. Her words, her offer, she said, I'm right there, it makes sense, let me be the one who does the day to day. I was relieved, honestly. I have 2 kids, a demanding job, a husband who travels. I said yes, and I told her I'd cover every expense, groceries, medications, the home aide who comes in 3 mornings a week. I set up a joint account specifically for mom's care, and I fund it every month. We're talking around $2,000 a month, sometimes more. I never once questioned a withdrawal. For the first 8 or 9 months, it worked. Renata was there, mom was stable. I'd visit on weekends, I'd call every day. We had a rhythm. Then things started to shift. Small things at first. I'd call mom on a Tuesday night and she'd mention she hadn't eaten a real meal since the aide left that morning. I'd ask Renata and she'd say mom was exaggerating, or she'd been busy, or she'd stopped by but mom was sleeping. Plausible, fine. But then it happened more than once. About 6 weeks ago, I drove out on a Wednesday, unannounced, which I'll admit I'd never done before. Mom was in her recliner, the TV off, the house cold. She'd run out of one of her medications 2 days earlier. She didn't call me because she didn't want to make trouble. Renata hadn't been by in 4 days. I called Renata from Mom's driveway. She picked up on the second ring and I said, pretty calmly, I thought, Mom's out of her medication and she hasn't seen you since Saturday. And Renata's response was, I've been dealing with a lot right now. That was it. That was the whole sentence. I've been dealing with a lot right now. I asked her what that meant. She said her relationship with her boyfriend was going through something. She'd been emotionally exhausted. She needed some space. I said, Renata, mom is sick. You can't take space from a sick person. She said I didn't understand what it was like to be there every single day, that it was grinding her down, that I got to swoop in on weekends and play hero while she was the one managing the hard stuff. And look, there's some truth in that. I know there is. But mom was sitting inside without her medication. We went back and forth for 3 days over text. She said I was ungrateful and controlling. I said she was neglecting mom. She said she was burning out and I wasn't listening. I said burnout doesn't mean you let someone run out of heart medication. She said, then maybe you should be the one doing it. And I said, and I meant it, maybe I should. I called a professional home care agency that same week. I found a full-time live-in aide, a woman named Clara who comes with incredible references. I arranged the whole thing. I worked it all out. And then I sent Renata a text, while she was at mom's house, which I didn't realize until after, telling her that I'd arranged new care, that her services were no longer needed, and thanking her for what she'd done. She read it sitting in mom's kitchen. Mom told me later she heard Renata crying. Renata didn't call me. She texted me one sentence, I can't believe you did it like this. Then she didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. My aunt, my mom's sister, Greta, called me the next morning and said I had humiliated Renata. That even if I was right to make a change, I ambushed her. I blindsided her in the one place she'd been showing up for almost a year, and that I could have at least called. My husband said something similar, actually. He said, you could have picked up the phone. And I said I'd tried talking on the phone. We'd been going in circles for days. He said, there's a difference between arguing and telling someone their role in the family just ended. Here's what I keep sitting with. Renata did show up for a long time, and she was burning out, genuinely, I think. I never once asked her how she was holding up. I sent money and I visited on weekends, and I assumed that was my part and her part was hers. Maybe I let it go too long before confronting it because I didn't want to see it. Maybe the text was a coward's way of doing something I should have said to her face. Or maybe, and I go back and forth on this, maybe she lost the right to a gentle conversation when my mom went 2 days without her medication. Clara started last Monday. Mom seems steadier already. Renata came by once briefly and they talked. She didn't look at me. A few weeks later, Renata sent me a long message. She said she knew she'd dropped the ball. She also said the way I ended things felt like being fired from loving our mother. And I didn't know what to say to that. I still don't. So, am I the problem here? I got my mom the care she needed. I also crushed my sister in the process and didn't give her a chance to even say goodbye to the role she'd held for nearly a year. Both of those things are true at the same time. Mom is okay for now. Renata and I are talking, technically. It's careful and strange and nothing like it used to be. And I don't know if what I broke between us is the kind of thing that heals. I keep telling myself I did what I had to do. But I also keep hearing my sister's line, "You fired me from loving our mother," and I can't find the place where that's entirely wrong. So honestly, am I the one in the wrong? Honestly, though, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments.